everybody. Welcome to the YR takeover of Montgomery County Club's Direct Line. We have two very special guests tonight. Our first guest, you know her, you love her. She is our National Committee Woman for the state of Maryland. And that is
evening,
everybody. Welcome
How are you doing,
to the
Nikoli?
YR takeover
Jackie, thank you for having me. Great to be here with you. Love our YRs. Thank you guys for
and we
everything
love
do.
you. So we want to hear what's the latest and greatest with the Mogga campaign, what's going on.
Absolutely. Okay, so hopefully a lot of folks who are listening to this call have already been on our Trump Talk trainings, right? We are part of this first ever virtual campaign for President of the United States. How amazing is this? And guess what? I know, historically in Maryland, people kind of wrote us off, but we have been changing that like crazy, from them funding field offices for us in Maryland in 2018 to they want us to literally use Trump Talk to call into Maryland in May to make sure people know how to vote and get their ballots in. And so we will be making phone calls like crazy. We need your help to call into our own state to make sure people figure out how to get their ballots in, make sure they've gotten it in the mail, what the process is for it, everything related to making sure they vote. And part of this is we just want to make sure our machine is well oiled and greased and make sure we get all the votes in from Donald J. Trump at the top of the ballot all the way down. And then in a little bit, I want to talk to you a little bit more about Maryland, but I want to cover a few more things at the national level. So what we are looking to do is we had about 150 registrants for our first Trump training back in Baltimore County. And then we were planning to have regional trainings. We had to move all the subsequent ones to online. We are going to have a YRCR training with the RNC's youth director in May. So we're hoping to schedule that right after finals end and before our May convention, because that window in May is going to be so critical to getting calls made. The other thing we can do is the YRs, YRNF, Young Republican National Federation, which I'm so proud to have been a previous chairman of. They are going to be making 90,000 calls into Maryland. So Maryland YRs, yes, but other YRs too, to help check on seniors and reach out and check in on ballots. And we're going to also incorporate that data to hopefully just make our numbers stronger and figure out how we can best support folks and make sure they know the Republican Party is there for them. So that is coming, and I invite you to participate in that and then continue on with Trump Talk into Maryland. Now, after that, here's the deal. I might sound like a broken record, but I want to make sure everyone knows. Our original plan was we said, well, any time you can give us, we will take. We are grateful for it. But we've asked folks to, if you can either achieve these benchmarks of making 2,500 calls by November's election, or if you can door knock for 4 days in Pennsylvania, but then we said, give us 4 days in Maryland too. So we're going to have to see if we're going to be allowed to door knock. I'm going to make sure people who make those numbers get a very special thank you gift in the fall. And if you really overachieve and are one of the top 3 in the state, we're going to make sure you get an incredibly special, unique thank you gift. So we're working on that. I was also asked to give a little background as to, how some of this has come about at the RNC level. Because as your national committee woman, I'm one of 3 votes, right, that represents the state of Maryland. There are 168 of us, the 50 states plus 6 territories, that vote on these things and weigh in. And, for example, just to give background on these things, I had to spend, I'd say a solid 6 months plus just pounding the pavement to get those 2018 field offices. And, had to initially work through Chairman Ronna Romney McDaniel, who is a great supporter of Maryland, and she gets it, and she was very supportive. But then we had to work it through at the staff and the legal levels and to implement it and make sure it happened. So that took a lot of diligence. Another thing that's really important to know about how the RNC functions is half of us are members of what's called the Conservative Steering Committee, and I am on the Conservative Steering Committee. And it's really critical because we work really diligently to kind of advise and run things like the resolutions committee to help protect and guide the Republican platform, which we're also proud of. And there's been a very concerted effort to go against that, as many of you probably know. And so, you know, in a great issue, I just want to give an example of tonight that we've also worked on. I'm also on the faith advisory board for the RNC, is the culture of life issue. And that has been an issue that we need to really kind of more assertively pursue. The left has given us an amazing gift of getting so radical and so extreme, whether it's Governor Northam talking about killing babies in front of him on radio and by videotape, or whether it's, you know, some of these radical bills also out of Virginia and New York. And I think it's important. And here in Maryland, we were so lucky a bill was dropped this session. And thank God the previous year, we stopped assisted suicide. But it takes very concerted effort from us minding these things. And I think it's very important that we as Republicans just talk about standing for the culture of life and how to go about doing that. And I'm proud just to give you examples of how great the RNC has been on these issues, because we have members who are persistent on this. I was able to convince the RNC, and they worked with me. We hosted the first ever reception in advance of the National Prayer Breakfast, kind of in early February before the virus stuff went crazy. So they were very excited to do that, hadn't thought to do it before, but it's wonderful that they take these ideas to push these critical issues that we care about. So I kind of wanted to share that some of that happens at the national level. We don't see it here in the state of Maryland, but critical things happening there. And at the same time, they're clearly very proud of the work we're doing here in Maryland, because not only are they funding field offices, but my gosh, they're tremendous supporters. And I have to thank President Trump for endorsing me last Friday. So that
yes,
was really
that's
exciting.
an incredible, very exciting endorsement.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. I have to tell you, I never expected to be endorsed by the president. You know, you're growing up as a little girl, you're like, you don't ever think, oh my gosh.
Have you added that to your resume, like endorsed by President of the United States?
I have to have like a stamp of approval. Right? So exciting. I can't say I ever imagined that in a million years, but it was such an honor and very exciting. And I have to tell you, they're just proud of what we're doing here, because whether it was, we're now the template for how they're doing these statewide calls in each state with a national campaign. And we did it first in Maryland here in March, and then how we did our targeted state training to help train people to have the latest skills to help in a targeted state just across the border, and then bring those skills back home. So they're loving all the stuff we're putting out. So we just have to keep going and setting this gold standard example. And before you know it, we're going to be red, because we've already turned purple. We are on the way to red. So we have
it's amazing. I was looking the other day, we have a couple of targeted ads out there for the Republican Club, and we've seen, you know, I read a comment the other day of someone who said, oh, well, yeah, all three of us. I'm like, well, no, really. I mean, we are out there. If you look at our page, like, they're growing every day. We are out there, and we are strong, and we are vocal, and we are a community. And Nikole, you've gone such a long way in fostering that community and getting people.
Well, the key thing we all know is it's a team. There's no one person that can do any of this stuff. But, you know, I go by the mantra, if you build it, they will come. We have to start somewhere where we have to try. And so, you know, right now we have you guys being these amazing YRs representing us so beautifully and working so hard, really setting the example on door knocking and just taking the mantle and running with it. I'm so proud of you guys. And which leads us to Maryland in 2020, where we have all these great municipal races, Board of Education races, and we've asked people, hone your skills at the national level, you know, do Trump talk, you know, if we can knock, we'll knock, but then help us for a minimum. Everyone give us 4 days of knocking if we can get back to that, and to win some of these municipal races. If we win one seat in most of these races, then we have GOP control of these areas, which, as we know, is just critical to how some of these cities or municipalities run. And then I have to give a shout out to Montgomery County here, because, and Ryan, help me out here, I know you have a bunch of referendums.
Yep.
And I want you to tell, I want to make sure you tell everyone about that.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty excited.
So Robin Ficker, he's run for office here in Montgomery County many times before as a Republican. He got a petition on the ballot, or a referendum on the ballot, to cap property tax increases. He got 16,000 signatures. There's another referendum that's being backed by some members of people involved here of the Republican Party in Montgomery County to get rid of the at-large county council districts. They have a few thousand signatures. I think they kind of got unfortunate timing with the coronavirus in terms of this summer was going to be their big push, but we've got one, if not two, very exciting Republican initiatives on the ballot where we can get real wins here in Montgomery County.
And I know that they're working on an extension, I believe, for the 9 districts for Mogga.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, really, it's like we were right in the middle collecting signatures. Actually, it wasn't that long ago. I was standing with my fingers freezing outside of a giant collecting signatures for it. And then we got sidetracked, and now that it's spring, I was like, now's the perfect time to do this.
Yeah, so Nikoli, we've got a few minutes left before our next guest comes on. Do you have any final things that you want to cover?
Well, folks, I'm all ears to answer any questions our wonderful YRs might have of me. We've got this exciting convention coming up that I hear Brandon's going to talk to you about. Right now, one of the things I've been trying to do is, back in the day, I've got to tell you, I did pandemic planning. This was when we were worried about SARS for the Bush administration at the Department of Labor. So trying to help advise on ways we can get around and still have a national convention in person using health scanning. I'm saying, hey, let's go get Walgreens and CVS as official health partners, have them, do the antibody scan in advance and associate that with people's credentials, or if people are clear, have them take the little 5-minute Abbott test every day so we can actually still have a national convention and feel safe about that. So that's one of the things I've kind of also been working on, in addition to I'm running for re-election at our May convention, and I'm excited to just keep building on what we've worked so hard. We've worked so hard to get where we are today. When I first ran for National Committee Woman, the job description is really minimal. It says, okay, go to 2 or 3 meetings a year. And I said, well, anyone can go to 2 to 3 meetings a year, but if we want to win in this state, we have to change our culture. So everyone in the state, not just a few pockets, believes in lifting ourselves up by our own bootstraps, getting out there, knocking doors, and just changing the culture to one of work. And we started winning sooner than we ever expected to, both at the municipal and statewide level. My gosh, Hogan's the only 2-term governor, the second 2-term governor we've ever had in the state. And we've made some really impressive strides at the municipal level, which is why we want to keep up the pressure for 2020. So
and really, I think Hogan's doing he's definitely making a good case for Republican governors. I mean, I think he's definitely doing a great job right now, and the world is looking to him. I mean, Andrew Cuomo said the other day that Governor Hogan is doing a much better job than I am.
That was funny for Cuomo to say that. That was hysterical. I think one of the key things that I think we always need to associate with a Republican brand is good management. We have got to also be known as the party that manages things well. And I think you see that, from the White House to all of these very popular Republican governors across America, including Hogan. Look at the team that President Trump has had working on COVID-19. It's been fantastic. And even his detractors are impressed by it. And, have to appreciate Hogan getting out there and just taking care of business. But, fine, bring in masks from wherever you like to. As long as they work, that's fantastic. So we have to be known as the party that manages things well. And I think we've got 2 great examples of it within miles of each other in the DMV area here. So we are so fortunate.
Yes. Well, Nikoli, thank you so much for coming on. So for the people who didn't join us for Trump Thursday this past month, if they want to get involved with the Trump campaign, how can they do that?
Yes. So please, what we most need, I get an email on it every day, is we need you to make calls for Trump Talk. We will be calling into Maryland to make sure we have a Maryland script once the ballots drop, to make sure people know how to vote and make sure they have their ballots. And then after that, of course, they need our help calling into some targeted states, like Pennsylvania is a must-win state for the president, right? I mean, I think the president could even perform well in Maryland, but we know he has to win Pennsylvania, for example. So let's call into some targeted states when we're not calling into Maryland, and do whatever we can at the national level. But also, please give us time in Maryland for some of these municipal races to make that critical difference. And once again, if we win one more seat in so many of these jurisdictions, we will win. And if you are listening and know of a municipal race that's coming up, we have our one-page Super Saturday application out there, and we already have some requests for the fall. So we are already working on building out our fall schedule for how we will be helping candidates, and we are planning to knock doors for them. So I sure hope the rest of the world agrees that we can be knocking by this fall.
Absolutely. So you can all go and check out the Maryland GOP's website to get more information on that, find your application, reach out to Nikoli. And again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to come and speak with us.
Great to be with you. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you very much, Nikole.